Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chekhov. Happy birthday to you.
Sort of made the decision almost as far back, I would say, as 2000 and what it would have been 2010, wouldn't it?
Beginning of 2011.
Yeah, 2011. I sort of made the decision then that I was probably going to do the Cherry Orchard in the third year. If I had the opportunity, then I was going to do the Cherry Orchard with that cast. And then I started thinking about casting it almost from that point on. And then through the whole of the second year, I was watching people every day in class. And I was watching them really carefully, and I was thinking who could play what part. Okay. For a long time, for example, I had Ty down as Gaiav, simply because I thought he would sort of really match that sort of character really well. And then I had a battle with Sarah about, she wanted him from Gravanya. But yeah, so there were lots of little things like that really, which sort of culminated in me choosing the Cherry Orchard for this particular group of students actually, and I'm really pleased with the choice. I think it worked out all right. So what I wanted to do was to actually put the play to push it forward in history so that it's taking place just before the Russian Revolution, and therefore Trofimov then becomes more dangerous actually in the play in terms of what happens to them, and that the loss of the estate and the orchard then becomes much more significant in terms of the changes overall in Russian society.
Was that the train? What time is it?
It's day.
God, I'm 2 hours behind today then. God, I come here to try and meet for the station. Well, I've been falling asleep. Why did you wake me?
Well, I thought you'd gone.
Ah, dear. Goodbye. Bye, Asher. Bye. Goodbye, Mum. Well, goodbye then.
I think what I did quite early on was I deliberately didn't touch the text for the first 2 weeks, and we just did character work. So what we did a lot of hot seating, we did a lot of character improvisation. I think we really pushed the interrelationships between characters a lot in the first couple of weeks. And I think that was really useful for people, because I think what then they were able to do, they were able to bring in that characterisation when we started rehearsing the play.
I've known it for so long now that I can just simply smile at it all. But you did give me your word, Dunyasha, in spite
Would you mind if we discuss this later? Her dream-like state at the moment, you see.
Working one cast is a lot easier than working with two. But actually, I quite enjoy it, because I tell you what it does is it sort of really gives me loads of ideas, because I see one cast doing something, and I can go to the other cast and say, oh, by the way, why don't you try this? And vice versa. And I think it's also very, very good for the actors who are double cast to watch what the other people are doing. I think it really gives you so many ideas.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is tricky doing double casting, and you just got to be really careful to make sure that everyone gets an equal amount of time.
I'm trying to wait for the dragoons. I've taken a position as a sort of housekeeper, I suppose.
I play Varya, the adopted daughter of Ranevskaya, who is 24 of common stock. She's quite trapped by the life she's in, caught between classes, and is frustrated with that kind of life, and her way out that she sees is either to join a convent or marry Leparkin, and neither option is all that available to her, and because of this she's quite tearful throughout the entire play.
Mine's Anya. She comes from a high-class background. She's the light of the play, I would say. Likeable.
At the end, when Leparkin buys the estate, at the end of Act 3, and I'm standing there watching, but in my head I'm just thinking, yes, of all people to buy it, it had to be him. He respects Leparkin. And I think deep down, I mean, he has to do what he's ordered to do, but he really cannot stand that family. The moment they're out, and then he gets his status change, it all changes.
I am playing Avdotia Fyodorovna Kozayegov, otherwise known as Dunyasha. She wants to be a lady, even though she's a maid. So she always wants to look pretty and carries around her makeup compact wherever she goes. She likes attention from men. Yepi Kodov asks her to marry her and she's initially interested, but once Yasha comes along, she's like, go away Yepi Kodov, I'm interested in Yasha because he's way more attractive and pays me better attention than you.
Fiers is the sort of chief butler of the household, and he's the one who organises all the other servants and keeps the house running. And he's been doing this for a very long time. He's 87 in the play, and has been in service for all of his life, basically, and has been sort of high-ranking for years and years and years. In a way, he's sort of endeared himself to me because he is sort of, at his core, he's a very good person, I think, and I don't know if that comes across because he's sort of mumbling around and sort of snapping at people and trying to keep things running, but I think at the end of the day, he does it out of a sense of duty and love, really, towards Ranevskaya and Gaev. He cares very much about them, and that's why he's stayed in service.
I play the role of Ranevskaya. She left the house. She ran away from her family, from responsibilities, because her son drowned and her husband died. Yeah, so she runs away, and then she has to come back, and she's going through so much emotion all at once. Doing the filming with the actor who played Grisha was interesting, and it helped because now I could create this image and this relationship, not just in my mind but physically.
With our production of The Cherry Orchard, I wanted to make Grisha significantly absent in the play. One of the ways by doing that is decided quite early on that he was going to be signified by a toy that's been left behind. That's the whole teddy bear thing, which works really well, particularly in the multimedia. But also I wanted to place him very significantly at the heart of the play in terms of how the characters think about him. And I think what I wanted to do was to sort of get people to really acknowledge that there's this massive hole in the play that this child represents that can never be filled, and that's why I think so much of the work we've done has been around acknowledging the gaps and the absences of the child.
I went abroad, away from good. I swore I'd never look at that river again. I shut my eyes to all responsibilities.
The Cherry Orchard, I was more interested in creating a sense of, very much a sense of a lived past from the family. So I made the decision quite early on that we were going to create what I call Chekhov home movies, that we were going to sort of create a sort of a feeling that these characters were like the first family in Russia to get a home movie camera, and that the father, the dead father, was an avid sort of photographer, and that he would take, you know, pictures and movie shots of the family. So the brief I gave the multimedia team, and I have to say that the multimedia team carried the brief out to a really high level, was to create a sense of the past within the context of the present, so that what we see in the multimedia is the past of the family house and the family history through the characters of Grisha, Ranovskaya, Varia and Fiers. Now, I would like to have included a lot more characters in that, but including more characters becomes more difficult to film, costume. So I decided to simplify it and stick with those 4 characters really as the sort of keystone to unlocking the past, so that what we see is a sense of the family in the past, particularly when Grisha was still alive, and then seeing where they are now, so that there's a gap and a distance between them.
Do you enjoy playing the piano, Varia?
I'm not very good.
Ready? And go. And go, rah! Rah! And then go, run off, that's it.
Obviously I had a sort of an idea for the setting of the cherry orchard, which we're sort of moving towards now, and a lot of it's to do with the ideas that people have presented at Grigornog, and then just adjusting some of those ideas.
Well, when we found out that it was going to be in the 1920s, I loved Boardwalk Empire. I don't know if you've seen it. That's all set in the 1920s, so I started to look at costumes from that. Because looking at Uncle Vanya first as well, we obviously had quite a big time period. So then for Cherry Orchard, it was easier to narrow it down to the dresses and the style of the era a lot quicker. The only real difficulty that we've had is with hair. Obviously everyone's hair is a lot different, and some of it's cut quite modern. So getting it back to the style and being able to do it in the time period that we have is one of the big difficulties at the minute that we're trying to overcome.
The set was almost put on hold while we put the play together, and now it's only really in the last week that I've gone back to them and said, you know all those ideas you had at Grigornog? Well, we are still going to do them. Don't think that we're not. It's just that we haven't really had a chance to do them because we've been so busy putting the play together. So it's really now, in this week, that the set's going to come together, and I think we are going to have this idea of almost a sort of expressionistic style forest that the audience sees when they walk into the theatre, which is going to be divided behind the screen. Mm-hmm. Then in front of the screen is going to be the wooden raised stage, and which represents the house. So there's going to be a definite cut-off between the house and let's say, nature, or what the orchard represents.
Andy wants it to be more out there. He doesn't just want it to be naturalistic, and do you know what I mean? We still have the bench, chair, blah 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 blah, but that's all just props that we had anyway. So we just looked at 1920s Russian furniture and props and decor and things like that. But for where Andy wants a more elaborate set, we're gonna have possibly, might happen, have trees coming out of behind with broken metallics, broken CDs, broken pieces of metal and things like that. And we've had problems where for the bookcase, for example, because we're having the stage in a round, it's hard to place.
Into the wood. 1803. 100 years ago, can you imagine?
Because we haven't exactly finished the set, we haven't faced many challenges yet. Mm-hmm. But I reckon when it comes to the riverfront, it's going to be just where the stage is actually going to be set is going to be a big thing. And obviously when it comes to the trees, that's going to be probably a challenge, not gonna lie.
Just have to go above it.
Okay, so you're yeah.
Right. Got some ratchets.
Good.
Not a good idea.
I'm carrying things.
What is that? Carry that.
The day on the right. Chris. Are you looking over now?
20.
Well, Andy obviously wanted the lighting non-naturalistic, so I basically just thought of things that would be non-naturalistic, like I don't know, crazy things like purple leaf gobos instead of like the usual green leaf gobos. Haze as well for the exordium when the people come in, so that they'll feel like
What's haze?
like fog.
Okay.
So that when people walk in, they'll feel like they're in a cold sort of forest-like feeling thing.
Okay.
Well, obviously sound cues are important. Obviously you've got the snapping of string, which obviously we all react to, so that's very important. All of the chopping down of the trees. Yeah, so I think they're just very important, the sound effects for people entering, exiting, for cues.
It's also important for the story, like things
Yeah.
when Anya comes on and she's like, will you stop chopping down the trees and blah blah blah, you need that. Some of it's symbolic as well, like with the chopping down a tree at the end, where with Fears, it's kind of like symbolic in the fact that, well, life's ended.
And a lot of it is symbolic to time as well, because when I was looking for car noises, obviously a normal car wouldn't be able to do. So I typed in 1920s cars to try and get a car at that time.
A sound that's more precise.
Yeah, and luckily managed to find it, and it sounds pretty good.
We arrive in Paris. It's snowing. My French was useless.
Yep.
Once we take it into the theatre, once people get really excited about performing it for an audience, it's just going to just take off. It's going to be great. You know, I love this play. It's not too strong a point to say that it's a lifetime's ambition to direct this play, and I feel really privileged that I've been able to do it with this group of students, and I'm very, very happy with that.
Guys, I'm interested.
Panto. Pantokin.
Let's go meet
Apparently Andy likes it and he's happy with it. Yeah.
What's up, Tony?
I don't know why I'm laughing. I really don't know why I'm laughing. I just started laughing. And I thought I shouldn't be laughing right now. Get interviewed, why am I laughing?
Right, I have a last question. If Tony, do you need to maybe go?
Sorry, I don't know what's come over.